Russia, a vast and formidable empire, has long maintained its dominance through relentless expansion, devouring minority lands, turning people into pawns, and extending its sphere of influence. But what if the very strength that Russia wields has become its Achilles heel? Beneath the familiar facade of power lies a profound vulnerability, one that could reshape its future far more drastically than any foreign adversary. This goes beyond the Ukraine conflict. It signals a deep transformation within Russia itself, a collapse that no army, no matter how fierce, can prevent. Now Peter Jean takes us into the hidden forces at play, exploring the internal dynamics Russia is struggling with. Forces that could change the very map of Eurasia. Jean uncovers the intricate motivations behind Russia's insatiable need to expand and the stark demographic challenges threatening its survival.
Part of the problem that the Russians have always had, expanding from Moscow, is that there's no logical place to stop that's within 1,000 miles of them. So they expand, they conquer some minorities, they occupy them, they try to Russify them, they turn them into cannon fodder, and they throw them into the next line of minorities, and they continue this process over and over and over and over and over until they eventually reach a geographic barrier that they can actually hunker down behind, which is typically like the Baltics, the Carpathians, and the Black Sea. It works until it doesn't. And what we're seeing with Russia right now is that the demographic decline among the Russian ethnicity is so high that within a few years, they're going to be having problems occupying their own populations.
As Russia faces an unfolding demographic crisis, Ukraine has seized an unprecedented opportunity to advance its position. This is not a full-scale invasion or a dramatic conquest, but rather a symbolic and calculated move signaling a strategic shift. Ukraine's recent incursion, though limited in scope, raises crucial questions. How far can it push its efforts, and what implications will this have for the broader conflict?
Anyway, anyone who wants to attack Russia has to do that in reverse. And even if you make it all the way to Moscow, that's not all of the Russian Federation's territory. You basically have to go until Russia is broken. And by Russia, I mean the population. We have the possibility of seeing that in the next 10 or 20 years, but we're not there yet. And the incursion that the Ukrainians have made into Russia proper isn't all that impressive from a territorial point of view. Basically, in the last 2 weeks, the Ukrainians have invaded Russia proper. They've taken over about 1,000 square kilometers, which is in the province of Kursk. And the question is why and what is next?
Following Ukraine's symbolic yet strategic incursion into Russian territory, the pressure Russia faces extends far beyond the front lines and deep into its economic struggles. With the Russian ruble rapidly losing value, its collapse paints a stark picture of the country's internal challenges and its growing isolation from global trade. The Russian economy is under severe strain, as evidenced by the ruble's dramatic depreciation over the past year. The currency has fallen from around 83.5 rubles to the dollar in June to nearly 100 rubles today. This ongoing decline has caused significant concern within Russia's financial circles and prompted the central bank to intervene, though these efforts have provided only temporary relief. The ruble's weakening is the result of combined pressures from international sanctions and Russia's economic isolation. A nation's currency typically reflects the health of its economy, and the ruble's collapse signals a struggling Russian economy, where fewer businesses are able to engage with international markets. Outside of fossil fuel exports to China, India, and a few other countries, demand for Russian goods has significantly decreased. Sanctions, high interest rates, and limited trade have curtailed domestic economic activity, reducing demand for the ruble. The immediate consequence of the ruble's decline is the erosion of Russian citizens' purchasing power. What would have cost 83.5 rubles in June now costs over 99 rubles for the average consumer. This represents a 16% increase in costs without a corresponding rise in wages. As the price of imported goods rises, household budgets are tightening, making it harder for families to meet basic needs. Businesses that rely on imported materials face higher production costs, which either shrink profit margins or force them to pass on price increases to already burdened consumers. This situation is complicated by the shift in Russia's international transactions, with many key trade partners, such as China and India, opting to trade in their own currencies rather than the ruble. This has diminished demand for the ruble in global markets, further weakening its relevance. Consequently, Russia is increasingly reliant on foreign currencies, and the ruble risks becoming obsolete outside of Russia's borders. The ruble's decline is one of the few real-time indicators of Russia's economic troubles, offering a clear daily snapshot of its economic health. Unlike other economic metrics, which are selectively reported or withheld by the Russian government, The exchange rate reveals the country's deepening struggles. Each drop in value sends a loud message. Russia's economy continues to falter under the weight of sanctions, dwindling trade, and a lack of international confidence. Adding to Russia's economic woes is the country's sky-high inflation rate, which has remained at 8.5% over the past year, more than double the target rate of 4%. To combat this, the central bank has raised interest rates to 21%, a level not seen in Russia for over 2 decades. While high interest rates may slow inflation by discouraging borrowing and spending, they also make loans and mortgages unaffordable for most Russians, stifling investment in real estate and major purchases. Corporations are similarly avoiding debt due to prohibitively high borrowing costs. As consumer spending drops and business investment stagnates, economic growth is minimal, with sectors like real estate and retail shrinking. High interest rates have created a vicious cycle for Russia. With both consumers and businesses avoiding spending, the economy contracts further weakening the ruble. At the same time, individuals are incentivized to keep their savings in banks to take advantage of the high interest rates rather than spend on goods and services, depressing economic activity even more. This has contributed to declines in Russia's stock and property markets, painting a bleak picture for the broader economy. Adding to these economic strains is the Kremlin's shift toward a war economy, where many businesses are now producing supplies for the ongoing conflict in Ukraine at the government's request. This state-directed production inflates GDP artificially, providing a misleading impression of economic growth. While Russia's GDP may appear stable or even increasing, it is being propped up by government mandates rather than real economic vitality. As a result, the economy is becoming increasingly disconnected from consumer needs and traditional market dynamics. The ruble's collapse signals deep, ongoing challenges that Russia's economy is ill-equipped to address in its current isolated state. The currency's continued decline reflects an economy burdened by international sanctions, restricted trade, and mounting inflation. As the ruble loses value and global demand for Russian goods dwindles, Russia faces a difficult road ahead, one marked by shrinking economic power and diminishing global influence. If you're finding these in-depth explorations of global economies valuable, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Staying informed is crucial, especially as we witness these pivotal economic shifts unfold in real time. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Russia will find a way to stabilize the ruble? Or is this the beginning of a much larger economic downturn? If you know someone following the latest economic trends, share this video with them. Thanks for watching.